The Usher Foundation, Episode 11. The Scoured Earth. Statement of Liam Halloway, age 45 at time of statement. Statement number 09044511. Summary of statement. His encounter with Californian wildfires. Statement recorded by Amita Dasgupta, archival assistant at the Usher Foundation of Paranormal Research, Washington, D.C. Statement as follows. I was a firefighter for 20 years. You know how it is. Every little kid wants to be a doctor, or police officer, or firefighter, and none of them actually end up doing that. Not me, though. I knew from a young age exactly what I wanted to do, and as soon as I turned 18, I applied for the academy. I loved it. Every minute of it. Sometimes I still miss it. The adrenaline you get when the siren wails, the practiced chaos of gearing up and rolling out, the mad rush into the building to actually put out the fire. But I quit years ago. I just couldn't do it anymore after the wildfires. I grew up in Florida, but I moved to Southern California pretty soon after graduating from the academy. My whole life, I was used to Florida heat. That humid, sticky heat that leaves you feeling like you just got out of the shower for the whole day. I got a big shock when I moved to SoCal. It's a dry heat. It sucks out all the moisture from your body and makes your insides feel like they're cooking in their own skin. The type of heat fires give off, you know. The heat that kills everything you are until you're just a pile of ash. SoCal, if you didn't know, is one of the wildfire centers of the world. Lots of dry foliage and grass, plus catastrophic heat, and add in a lot of humans who don't really care about their environment. It leads to a lot of really awful fires. I'm sure you've seen the news. If they get real bad, you have to evacuate entire neighborhoods. Smoke travels across the entire country for days. I've seen entire towns on fire. You do what you can as a first responder, but most of the time my job was just damage control. Rescue anyone we can and try not to die in the process, that kind of thing. Most wildfires are caused by humans. Every time I think about what happened, I remember that fact. A loose cigarette that wasn't put out properly, a campfire left unattended, poorly maintained electrical lines. An entire part of the world razed to the ground, and it's almost always done by human hands. It was 2001, I think. A bad year for wildfires. I think according to official records, there were over 9,000 of them that year, and I was right in the front lines with my brothers and sisters. I don't know exactly how many times I geared up that year, but it felt like hundreds. After a while, even I got tired of that siren wail, and I was usually one of the more optimistic people on whatever team I was on. Thinking back on it like this, I try to remember if anything felt different about that day. If maybe the sun was a little too hot, or if the wind blew strangely, or if I felt some anxious sense of doom. But the more I think about it, the more I'm absolutely sure that everything felt completely normal. Jeffrey Grimaldus made breakfast for the team as usual. I brewed coffee for everyone. We all talked and joked around like normal. It's weird to think about. How can you start a day just like every other day, only for your life to be changed later? Sorry, I'm rambling. I don't like talking about it directly, I guess. It was about mid-afternoon when we got the call. A wildfire south of the station. It was pretty standard at this point, almost expected during the summer, that whenever we got a call, it was gonna be a wildfire. We all suited up and went careening out of the station just like every other time. I felt that old, familiar rush of adrenaline, that excitement that I think every firefighter gets. People call us crazy sometimes, and I guess some of us are. I don't know a single firefighter who's never felt excited instead of scared at the prospect of burning alive. Some people are just built different, I guess. I won't dwell on the particulars of the actual fire, because they're not important. Suffice to say, it was a bad one. Now, normally, I'm put on the evac team. My job was usually to assess the danger to civilian lives, and if the fire was bad enough to be traveling to populated neighborhoods, I helped lead evacuation to safer areas. A lot of the time, this meant some houses were already up in a blaze, and then the evac job became a search and rescue. Find the civilian, get them out, hand them off to an EMT. It suited me. I liked the search and rescue. Call me narcissistic, but I liked the charge into the flaming house, the carry of the civilian when I charged back out. But on that particular day, Jeffrey put me on wildfire duty. Fighting a wildfire is a strange battle. It's not the same thing as putting out a building, and not for the reasons you might think. Obviously, a wildfire is less controlled than a building fire, and tends to be bigger, but what makes a wildfire so different is how fast it is. A combination of the foliage plus what we call Diablo winds means that completely putting out a wildfire is nigh on an impossible task. Instead, it becomes about containment. You figure out which way the fire is going, and you form a dozer line. Sometimes you light a backfire or a line fire, literally fighting fire with fire. I was on dozer duty, one of the riskiest parts of fighting a wildfire. A dozer line is exactly what it sounds like. A line of bulldozers sitting on uneven terrain to create an almost unbreakable containment line to control the spread of the flames. In theory, it sounds simple, but it's one of the most dangerous jobs. The smoke obstructs your sight line, the uneven ground makes driving a several-ton vehicle harder, and suddenly you can find yourself in the path of a dozer, or worse, on the ground in front of the fire. Despite the risks, it was going pretty well, actually. I was directed to my dozer, I operated it as per usual, and I stopped it in the designated spot. In front of me, flames ate the surrounding trees and skyline. Acrid black smoke billowed outwards, and I could feel the heat even from my little area. But that was nothing unusual. I thought nothing of it. And then I felt the dozer shift. I thought it was my imagination at first. I had the brakes on. I was parked. Hell, the dozer wasn't even running. But I felt it. A change in my orientation. Like if you park on a hill and you don't put on your emergency brake and you start rolling forwards. I thought it was weird, but like I said, I didn't think it was out of the norm. In the smoke, you can see and feel a lot of things that aren't really there. It screws up your perception, and when you add adrenaline into that mix, things can seem unreal. It wasn't until I felt the dozer physically falling over that I even realized anything was wrong. Imagine it. 15 tons of steel toppling forwards, all momentum, carrying your fragile human body with it. I couldn't even cry out. I just remember a blur of yellow paint and broken windshield, my heart in my throat and my arms reaching out to catch myself. There was a terrible crash, the sound of what seemed like all the shattering of the glass in the world. I felt a horrible pain in my left leg, and I think I did scream then, and everything went dark. When I woke up, all I could feel was heat, and all I could hear was a strange roaring noise. My throat burned, and my eyes were streaming hot tears that turned to steam even as I wept. I tried to get a sense of my surroundings. Miraculously, the bulldozer had not landed on me, or maybe I had crawled out of it and not realized it. Either way, its crumpled remains sat yards away from where I was laying. It had done its damage, though. When I looked down and saw my left leg, I almost vomited. It was bent at all the wrong angles, and I swore I could feel bones sticking out of my skin. I tried to call for help, for anyone, but my throat was scratchy and sore. Death is not a stranger to firefighters. To any first responder, really. It's a part of the job. And all of us know someone who's died on the line. Or at least, we know someone who knows someone who's died. But for me, it was always such an abstract idea. A possibility that lurked in the shadows, but never really showed me its face. Lying on that forest floor with a shattered leg and no one around, it was the first time I felt it looming over me. I got scared. More scared than I'd ever been during a job. I tried screaming again, louder, but I just started coughing violently. But, despite the fear, I resolved myself. I was trained for emergencies, damn it. I needed to pick myself up and try to find help. I couldn't walk, but I could crawl, and as long as I could crawl, there had to be hope, I thought. I swallowed to try and relieve some of the burning in my throat, and I looked around for the first time since waking up. And that was when I noticed that something was terribly, terribly wrong. Because somehow I wasn't at the edge of the wildfire anymore. I was in the middle of it. All around me were flames. Flames like I'd never seen them before. They towered above me, taller than the trees they fed on, taller than the sky it seemed. The whole world was heat and red and orange. The ground beneath me was scoured black and gray. Everywhere I looked, there was nothing but fire and desolation. I screamed again, but my voice dissolved into coughs. I cried out for anyone I knew, anyone who could get help, but of course I got no answer. The only thing I could hear was that roaring, the enormous fires. In frustration and fear, I pounded my fist on the ground, and I felt it shift underneath me. And for the first time, I realized what I was lying on. I dug my fingers into the soft, blackened earth, and I pulled out a charred bone. I scrambled back so quickly my leg protested, and I cried out again, but there was nowhere to go. I was utterly surrounded by the terrible flames, and I was lying on what I knew to be the ashes of my friends and comrades. They'd been burned so badly their bones were disintegrating into ash, and somehow I knew that no matter where I managed to pull my broken body, it would do no good. The whole world had turned into this desolate wasteland of flame and black earth and charred bodies, and it was only a matter of time until they took me too. I laid there for what felt like hours, alternating between crying and trying to scream. I don't remember when I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital bed. Everything hurt. A doctor came and explained to me what had happened. I hadn't imagined the bulldozer falling and landing on my leg, and I hadn't imagined crawling away from the scene. The doctor explained I'd passed out from the pain, and I was found by my fellow firefighters in the midst of the wildfire, almost dead from smoke inhalation. Apparently on the ride to the hospital, I was screaming deliriously about a world made of ash and pain and fire. Of course, I remember things very differently. I know I cried when I realized my team was not burned to death. I know they had to do a lot of surgery on my leg, and I know they said I'd never walk correctly again. But I never told anyone about what I saw. What I knew really happened. I quit for a little while after that. I just couldn't do it anymore. Not that I really could with my leg the way that it was. But it wasn't my leg that made me quit. It was the thought of rushing into the flames. It was like I could taste the heavy, greasy flavor of charred human flesh. Could feel the burning of my throat as it was coated in ash. The the thought made me sick. So I left. I moved out of California. I got a desk job. Not as exciting, but it pays well. And I make a lot more money than most people without regular degrees, so I have to be thankful for that. But it still bothered me, which is why I came to you. I haven't told this to anyone, not even my wife. And I thought that coming here and telling you all what happened would help. Get it off my chest, you know? But I don't know if I feel any better at all. Statement ends. Mr. Halloway is still residing in Virginia and lives with his wife, Cheyenne. When we reached out for a follow-up with him, he declined. Looks like Kaylee did some investigations into wildfires in the year 2001 in the Southern California area, but didn't come up with a lot. The sheer number of fires occurring in the area that year made tracking the precise fire Mr. Halloway experienced very difficult, especially considering he gives no specific details about the fire. This looks like something of a dead end, unfortunately. It's all sort of feeling like a dead end, really. All this... I don't know. The research, the recordings... I've asked Kaylee to try and find any statements similar to statement number 09224105, but so far she hasn't had any luck. It just feels like I'm on the verge of something, you know? Like I can see all these puzzle pieces, these categories I've been filing the statements under. But I can't see yet how it all fits, and if I could just do that, I could just figure out what happened to... Anyways, I should really talk to Mari. Our last conversation... I didn't want it to go the way that it did. I don't know why I'm saying all this to the tape recorder. If Mari were here, she'd make fun of me for breaking academic integrity. Well... and recording, I guess. Hey, Mari. Can we talk?
The Magnus Archives is a podcast written by Jonathan Sims and produced by Alexander J. Newall and distributed by Rusty Quill. Story, characters, and ideas written about in this fan-made project belong to Rusty Quill. The Usher Foundation is a fan-made project co-written by Rashmi Phillips and Mari and edited by Mari, Kaylee F, Amber, and Emma. All audio used in this project was Creative Commons Use Audio. Thank you for listening.